I can't remember exactly when the first meeting took place. I forgot, but I believe it was about the year 36 or 37. But the meetings were not regular. There were times when I did not find Eijkman. He was traveling, and later when I read where he has been, but at the time we did not know.
Tell me, please, when you met Eijkman, where did you meet him? Where did he sit?
I found him in the same building on Prince Albertstrasse.
Was he in the main building?
In the same building with Kochman.
Across the garden?
Yes, in the same part of the building.
About what was the subject of your discussion? What were the topics?
There were all kinds of matters discussed. Once we came, asked for something, and there were times when he demanded something from us.
Please answer me. What were the matters which you brought to Eijkman?
When I learned that he was the man on the spot, and I had the impression at the time that he was listening to our matters and was sincere, trying to understand the situation, then I also applied to him, and during a conversation I put forward some complaints and requests. I was in general dealing also within the framework of the Reichsvertretung, also with the Hachshara, preparing the pioneers for Palestine, and they were dispersed all over Germany in places where the custom was like in Berlin. There were local incidents in those places or other interferences on behalf of institutions there. And then I came to Eijkman and said that this could not carry on. If we want to carry on our job, this has to stop, and requested that he intervene to arrange the matters.
Did he promise this?
He promised, and I must say that from time to time he even acted and did something. But then I must add that whenever I came, he always said I must ask my superiors. And later he would telephone me, or I could telephone Eijkman and ask if there was any decision. I also had negative answers, but usually there was a way of negotiating.
Tell me, why did you not turn to Kochman since you knew him?
I felt I did not know what the task of and the authorities, we never learnt about them, the authorities of a person who was against us. But I felt that Kochman's authority was limited to affairs dealing with Berlin. And we were interested also to deal with matters I mentioned before. That is why I thought that this was the way to influence other institutions with which I had no contact.
I understand. What were the things that he wanted from you? In what matters did Eijkman show interest? Did he summon you at times?
Yes, he did summon me, but this was also connected with a matter. Let's say we applied for a certain privilege for an emissary from Palestine to come to Berlin, and handed in an application regarding this matter. I was called to his office to hand in information about the man, and besides I had the impression that he was after something. He wanted to learn something, the details of a certain matter. And of course, every one of us knew that things were not easy, and that there were many matters difficult to explain, even to us. and he asked me what they were. I had to explain to him, for instance, what is the question of the Orthodox were not within the official framework, what is the meaning of the various Zionist parties, the Palation.
He especially showed special interest in these organizational matters.
Such matters. What was the impression you had? From the gate, I remember the grotesque manner. He did not know how to refer to us, and he stammered and said, "Here are the gentlemen from Berlin." He wanted to say, he wanted to use another word, but this was on the ground floor on the left hand. There was a large room, and there Aijkman was sitting.
Did you see him immediately?
Yes, I did.
Will you please tell the court of the impression you received from him at this meeting?
No, this was not the last meeting. There were more meetings with Aijkman. And I remember that immediately I told my colleagues that I did not know and that I was ashamed of the change in this man.
How was this change express itself?
His whole approach. I thought this was a low official, a clerk, fulfilling his duty, sending in reports, etc. And here I met a man acting like a ruler in whose hands are death and life, behaving in a brutal manner. He received us. He did not let us come near to his desk. We had to remain standing.
Dr. Meyer, did all the members of the delegation recognize him?
I cannot say. I doubted whether all of them knew him.
Besides you, did anybody else know him, recognize him? Were there any signs of recognition between you at this meeting in Vienna?
There was no connection or a way of addressing the man as if he passed us through the whole building and comes out without property, without any privileges, except a passport with the instruction you must leave the country within who were at the time the officers of the Jewish department at the SD, Aijkman, and a journey to Palestine and to Egypt. This was supposed to include, besides obtaining general information on Zionist problems, also a visit to the Grand Mufti, and Dr. Reichhardt was to report, but the visit did not materialize because the British authorities limited the stay of Aijkman in spite of his tourist visa. The stay was limited to 48 hours. In Cairo, at the time, there were discussions with Arab nationalists, journalists from Jerusalem, children and women in larger numbers. I must add that the Grand Mufti, during his stay in Germany, was a liaison officer with the German government. There was a German officer. Affidavit.
Is Hopen Cotton still alive?
As far as I know, he is.
Do you know where he is?
No, I will not try to guess, because it seems the defense knows where the gentlemen are to be found, I believe. I thought Hettel was in Germany, but it seems he is in Austria. I will not guess where the whereabouts of these people.
What was the reaction of the accused to this?
He confirmed on page 1056, the accused, there is questions and answers, and left asked, he probably knew the activities of your department, Aijkman. Yes, of course.
Dass sofort die Hände anschwollen und sich ätzende Wunden bemerkbar machen.
I reached the entrance, and the wife of the caretaker, Mrs. Shakeritz, wanted to stop me, but one of the sentries noticed me, and they gave me a bucket of boiling water and told me to brush the steps. I lay down on my stomach and I began to brush the pavement. It turned out that the bucket was half full of acid, and this burnt my hands.
Wurde der damals 70-jährige Oberrabbiner Dr. Taglicht, der in dem Haus der Kultusgemeinde wohnte, herausgeführt von einem SS-Verfügungstruppe Wachposten, und er wurde aufgefordert, so wie ich, neben mir das Pflaster zu reiben.
And while I was lying down on my stomach doing this job,